بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. سبحان صاحب العلم المطلق. ثم أما بعد، ما زلنا في الانترودكشن about the ethical hacking. تعال بعد ما اتكلمنا عن ال psychoshame concept، هنتكلم دلوقتي عن ال TTPs. TTPs Tactics, Techniques and Procedures. يعني ايه tactics؟ لك ده تكتيك عالي. تكنيك، ايه الفارق ما بين التاكتيك والتكنيك؟ حد يقول؟ اطلق لمخيلتك العنان واعطني اجابة. التاكتكس اللي هي الاستراتيجي، استراتيجية في قتال معين. التكنيك هو تنفيذ هذه الاستراتيجي، هتنفذها ازاي. فتعال نشوف التاكتكس والتكنيكس in deep details. والبروسيجر، البروسيجر اللي هو يعني الإجراءات المعينة المتخذة للتطبيق. فالتاكتكس والتكنيك والبروسيجرز بيقول لي هنا فيهم ايه. The term tactics, techniques and procedures refers to the pattern النمط of activities، نمط من الأنشطة and method associated with a specific threat actors or groups of threat actors. نمط معين من مجموعة معينة من أو جروب معينين اللي هينفذوا الايه الثريتس أو الاتاكس أو كذا. The TTPs are helpful in analyzing threats and profiling threat actors and can further be used to strengthen the security infrastructure of organization. The word tactics is defined as a guideline that describe the way an attackers perform their attacks from beginning to the end. يبقى التاكتكس هو بشكل ما عملية لوصف الطريقة اللي هينفذ بها الاتاكس. The word كلمة techniques is defined as the technical method. يبقى الطريقة التكنيكال اللي هينفذ بيها الاتاكس هي الايه التكنيكس. يبقى الطريقة التكنيكال هي techniques method used by the attacker to achieve intermediate result، نتائج مبدئية أو متوسطة أو كذا results during their attacks. Finally, the word procedures is defined as organizational approach. هو المخطط المنظمي أو التنظيمي followed by the threat actors to launch their attack. In order to understand and defend against the threat actors, it is important to understand the TTPs used by the adversary. So the TTPs is offensive by the adversary against you. Understanding the tactics or the tactics of the of an attackers help to predict and detect evolving threat in early stage. فهمك للتكتيكس والتكنيكس اللي هينفذ من قبل الاتاكرز اللي من هنا ومن هنا ومن هنا بيساعد في عملية الايه ان انت تتنبأ وان انت يعني توقف من الايه من هذا الاتاك الذي قد يحدث في وقت مبكر. Understanding the measures where am I? Understanding techniques used by the attackers help identify vulnerability and implement defensive measures in advance. Lastly, analyzing the procedure used by the attackers helps to identify what the attacker is looking for within the target organization's infrastructure. So here معنى الرغي ده كله فهمك يعني ايه تكنيك تاكتكس وبروسيجر بيساعدك في التنبؤ واكتشاف الموضوع مبكرا، وبالتالي الخطورة تقل في هذا الأمر. The organizations should understand the TTPs to protect their network against threat actors and upcoming attacks. The TTPs enables the organization to stop attacks at the initial stage, thereby protecting the network against massive damage. So we need to fully understand the TTPs to protect our network. So the first thing is tactics. What's tactics? Uh, Above they say that the tactics is the way to describe. Let's just go deeply than this statement. The tactics is describe the way these threat actors operate during different phases on the attack. It consists of various tactics used to gather information for the initial exploitation. For the initial exploitation, perform privilege escalation and lateral movement, and deploy measures for persistence access to the system. Generally, the ABT group depend on the certain set of unchanging techniques, but some cases they adapt to different circumstances and alter the way they perform their attack. Therefore, the difficulty of detecting and attributing the attack campaign depend on the tactics used to perform attacks. The organization can profile threat actors based on tactics they use. This consists of way they gather information about target and method they follow for the initial compromise and numbers of entity points they use while attempting to enter target network. يعني الوصف نفسه بتاع الاتاك وازاي بيتم قد يختلف من منظومة معينة الى اخرى. وهنا بتكون صعوبة الموقف ان انت ترصد كل التحركات بتاعة ال different attacks او ال different tactics بتاع الناس المختلفة او الجروبس المختلفة. في الاخر ان الاورجنايزيشن المفروض تعمل بروفايل لكل ثريت اكتور بلانش اتاك معين او بشكل معين. For example, to obtain information, some threat actors depend solely on information available on the internet. بعض الاتاكس اللي بيتم يعني الناس بتعتمد بيه على المعلومات اللي موجودة سلفا على الانترنت whereas other might perform social engineering وبعض الاخر قد ايه ينفذ السوشيال engineering ان هو يعمل فيشنج ويحاول يلقط منك اي حاجة or use a connection. So once information such as the email addresses of employees of the target organization is gathered, the target actors either choose to approach the target one by one or as a group. Furthermore, the attacker's design payload can stay constant from the beginning to the end of the attack or may be changed based on the target individual. يعني في اتاكس بيتم او بيتغير محوريا مع تغير التارجت وفي حاجه بتفضل ايه constant all the way from the beginning to the end. Therefore, to understand the target actors, the threat actors better, the tactics used in the early stage of the attack must be analyzed properly. يبقى التكتيك دي حاجه بتحصل ايه في البداية في المقدمة مبكرا عن لانش الاتاك بيتم تحليلها كويس. Another method of analyzing the ABT groups is it's inspecting the infrastructure and tools used by perform their attacks. For example, consider establishing the command and control channel on the server controlled by the attackers. This CC server may be located within the specific geographical location or may spread across the internet. Uh, anyway, it's just all talking here about the tactics. In general, the tactics is just what? Giving the way the attack is being done. This way is maybe changed at certain point or be constant from the beginning to the end. It depend on the attack itself, depend in the victim's general or system, whatever. So this is the tactics. The techniques to launch an attack successfully. Threat actors use several techniques. ايه الميثود التكنيكلي المستخدمة في launch الاتاك؟ During its execution, these attacks include initial exploitation, setting up the maintaining command and control channel, accessing the target infrastructure, and covering the tracks of the data exfiltration. The techniques followed by the threat actors to conduct an attack might vary, but they are mostly similar and can be used for profiling. Therefore, understanding the techniques used in the different phases of the attack is essential to analyzing the threat groups effectively. يبقى عملية اللانش الاتاك والطريقة المستخدمة في الاتاك والكوماند اند كنترول تشانل اللي هتتم ما بينك ما بين الفيكتيمز accessing target infrastructure ازاي بتكفر your traces of data exfiltration دي كلها بتكون في مرحلة التكنيك او تحت مسمى التكنيك. Also, the techniques can also be analyzed at each stage. ممكن بيتم تحليل التكنيك في كل stage من attack stages of the threat life cycle. Therefore, the techniques at the initial stage mainly describe the tools used for information gathering and initial exploitation. من خصائص التكنيكس برضو ان هو بيقول ان جمع المعلومات في هذه المرحلة بيدخل تحت نطاق وطبعا استغلال الثغرات اللي موجودة هو تحت مفهوم التكنيكس. The techniques used in this stage need not necessarily have a technical aspect. لابد أن يكون له منظور. على سبيل المثال السوشيال engineering in an example. Certain non-technical software tools are used as an effective way of gathering information. ممكن حاجة ما تكونش سوفت وير أصلا non-technical software عشان تستخدم في ايه gather الانفورميشن. ممكن تبقى مكالمة تليفونية، ممكن تبقى ايميل، ممكن تبقى حاجة ملهاش دعوة بالسكريبتنج والبروجرامينج والكده. An attacker can be such tools can use such tools to obtain the email address of the target organization employees through the publicly available resources. So in the same manner, the purely human-based social engineering can be used to perform the initial exploitation. قد ينفذ الاتاك من خلال ايه؟ مكالمة على التليفون مع أحد الموظفين يفصح من خلالها عن بعض المعلومات التي قد تكون سرية أو غير مصرح بها وجودها على العلن. For example, consider the scenario where the victim tricked by the phone call. ده اللي بقوله لك ان الضحية يقع خديعة لمكالمة تليفونية to reveal their login credential. ده بقول لك عليه for accessing the target organization internal network. These techniques are used in the initial phases of an attack to gather information about the target and break the first line of defense. So the techniques is aiming for infiltrating or breaking the first line of defense about your system. Also, the techniques used in the middle stage يبقى في تكنيك في الفيرست، في تكنيك في الميدل. في الميدل ستيج of an attack mostly depend on the technical tools. في الأول التكنيك ممكن يستخدم مكالمة تليفونية عشان يستكشف الحاجات العامة. في النص لا، في النص بيعتمد على ايه؟ على technical tools for initially escalating the privilege. عشان تصعد من مستوى الاتاكس بتاعك على السيستم it has to be a technical method on a system that are compromised or performing lateral movements within the target organization's network. At this stage of attacks, the attackers uses various exploits or misuse configuration vulnerabilities on a target system. They may also exploit network design flaws to gain access to other systems in the network. In all of these cases, either exploits or collection of tools allows the attacker to perform successful attack. In this scenario, the term techniques is a set of tools and the way they are used to obtain immediate result during an attack. In the middle stage, ملخص هذا الكلام عن الحوار اني it has to be technical, it has to be a tool there to escalate the attack, to gain more much privilege over the system. المرحلة دي طبعا قد تنفذ من خلالها إلى السيستم وتكون إيه بوابة للانش another system أو جمع معلومات أو استغلال ثغرات أكبر من اللي كانت موجودة سلفا. So after this, the techniques in the last stage of the attack can have both technical and non-technical aspect. يبقى في last stage, it could be technical, it could be non-technical, it depends. In such scenario, the techniques used for a data stealing are usually based on the network technology and encryption. Stealing data, it's a technical way, okay, and encryption, whatever. For the example, the threat actor encrypts the stolen files, transfers them through the established command and control channel. الاتاكر حصل على فايل معين مهم، هيقوم بتشفير هذا الفايل وارساله عبر الكوماند اند تشانل اللي موجوده بينك ما بينه and copies them on their own systems. After successfully executing the attack and transferring the file, the attackers follows a certain purely technical techniques to recover their tracks. So after you done your attack, after you did your mission, you have to just clear out your tracks. You have to hide your tracks. They use automated software tools to clear logs file to evade detection. Once you log to the system, if you have a monitoring device just detecting any motion, any activities on your system, and if there is an attack done by me, after I did the attack, I should remove these logs from the database. Okay, after aggregating the techniques used in all the stages of the attack, the organization can use the information to profile these threat actors. In order to make an accurate attribution of these threat actors, the organization must observe all the techniques used by its adversaries. قد يضع لك الطريقة والشكل اللي هيتم بيه الاتاك، وطبعا هو كايثيكال هاكينج المفروض يقول لك ان انت لازم كمؤسسة كمنظمة كتيم مخصص للسايبر سيكيورتي protecting the network infrastructure، لازم تبقى عارف عن هذه الايه عن هذه التكنيكس وانواعها المختلفة اللي قد تكون تكنيكال ونون ايه ونون تكنيكال. تيجي في last one TTP, which is the procedures, the last one. The procedures involve a sequence of action، يبقى مش حاجة واحدة، مجموعة performed by the threat actors to execute different steps of an attack life cycle. So the number of action usually differs depending upon the objectives of the procedure, and the APT group and advanced threat actors uses the advanced procedure that consists of more actions than the normal procedure to achieve the same intermediate result. This is done mainly to increase the success rate on the attacks and decrease the probability of detection by securing mechanism. For example, in basic procedure of information gathering, an actor collects information about the target organization, identifies key target employee, collects their contact details, identifying vulnerability system and potential entry point to the target system, and document all the protected information, etc. So basically the procedures هو عملية جمع المعلومات، قد تكون في مستوى متوسط، مستوى أولي. على سبيل المثال ال procedures of information gathering من قبل الاكتورز اللي هيعملوا الحاجة دي بيكولكت الانفورميشن about the target، بيidentifies الكي تارجت، ايه الكي للتارجت الفلاني والفلاني والفلاني. قد يكون امبلويز، فهم شخصية الامبلوي الفلاني وجمع معلومات عنه وكذا. collects their contact details، ايه المعلومات الخاصة بالتواصل معاه. identifies the vulnerability system and potential entry point، ايه هي النقاط الحساسيه اللي موجوده مبدئيا في السيستم، وهي المداخل المحتمله لهذا الايه، لهذا السيستم او لهذه الشبكه. والدوكيمنت and document all the collected information. documented all the بيدوكيومنتوا كل حاجه موضوعه. ده في البروسيجرز في المرحله اللي بعد كده. And understanding proper analysis of the procedure followed by the certain threat actors during the attack helps the organization profile threat actors in initial state of an attack, such as during information gathering. Observing the procedure of an ABT group is the difficult. However, the later stage on the attack can leave trails that may be used to understand the procedure the attack follows. In general, you have to understand the every possible procedure existent over there to understand or to have the full overview how the attacks being done from a certain group or individual or whatever they're who's just launching these kinds of attacks. So tactics, techniques, procedures. That's about each one of these. Let's talk about another thing here, which is the adversary behavioral identification. Let's just put this on another video. See you later, guys.